Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining Product Rep Summit, and thanks for joining us in this presentation on ethical product management, which is one of my favorite topics, a topic that I'm super passionate about, especially in the increasingly complex and divided world we live in today. My name is Timothy Yeung. I'm currently Group Product Manager at Hootsuite, managing our planning create product portfolio, one of our largest portfolios with social media, scheduling, publishing, collaboration, and recommendation capabilities. And prior to Hootsuite, I was an associate director of product at UI and a lead product manager at TELUS Digital. And I also served on the board of directors and president for Product BC in the past. Currently outside of work, I'm also setting up a product management course and program for the University of British Columbia. And I'll be starting to teach a course later this year, November 2022, for UBC on product management. Well, but enough about me. Let's look at the why, what, and how on this topic, like how we would like to think as product managers. And starting with what do we mean by ethical product management? Why is that important? And how can product people like us, like ourselves, play a major role in building ethical products? So let's start with a bit of flashback, circa 2018, 4 years ago, 2 years before the pandemic. And a lot of these stories I'm going to be sharing could happen throughout the year in the day-to-day as a product manager. But let's start with this day. We're in a sunny Vancouver morning. I was getting out of my condo to get to the office. So I got into the car, I got into the parking lot of the office building, and I saw this neat little device that allows me to wave my hand for the door to open. And I thought, what a great device for both wheelchair users and non-wheelchair users like myself. And I proceeded to wave at the sensor, and next thing I know, the door's opening towards me. And I was surprised and was able to move out of the way to avoid an injury or inconvenience caused by it. But I was thinking, if I was on a wheelchair or if I was holding on to many things like different bags and stuff like that, I might not have been able to move in time, and that could have caused an injury. Whereas the product or the sensor was really designed to help people, but it could end up hurting people. And I proceeded to get into the office, and I was chatting about this design flaw with some of my colleagues. And then, because it was a sensor, that reminds us of another instance of a failing sensor. This time, a YouTube video that went viral 2 years before 2018, probably around 2015, 2016, around they called it a racist soap dispenser, because when a white person waved their hand under the sensor, soap came out, was dispensed. And then when a black person was trying to do the same, no matter which angle they tried to wave their hand at under the sensor, the soap dispenser does not dispense soap, which was a terrible product design challenge, and probably also spoke to the fact that they didn't test it properly before releasing this to the market. And then as the day progressed, we were building capabilities for our web app. And one of the browsers that we still supported at that time was Internet Explorer. And even though we officially support it, oftentimes it becomes quite challenging to make sure the features we're building does end up supporting IE, and it definitely increases the number of bugs and challenges that we see and run into during development. And then as the day goes on, we read the news, and we also saw the news around Cambridge Analytica, how they have misused data they got from Facebook without proper consent from users. They broke the Facebook policies, and at that time, there was court cases and ruling around how the data was misused by Cambridge Analytica, but also Facebook's, now Meta's, responsibilities around how the access to data provided by them to developers. Those policies got brought into questions, and fundamentally how data is retained, protected, and used. And that incident certainly had a detrimental effect and eroded trust by a lot of users on the Facebook products. And then we saw also in the news the Reynolds story, where in theory, if the device was working, the blood testing device was working, it would have been quite a massive breakthrough in technology and in science. The challenge is, unfortunately, the product just doesn't work. And then the business was built on the premise of the device working, that it doesn't. So as you could see over the years, by the time it hits 2018, the value of the company went from a worth of close to tens of billions to nothing. Reynolds closed in 2018 because basically the whole business and the product was a fraud. There was also the Equifax state of rage that we've really seen the effects in 2017, 2018. The breach happened in 2017, but by the time when it gets to 2018, we've really seen close to 150 million of US citizens with their data being exposed and misused, and 8,000 Canadian citizens running into the same challenges and stressful situation. That really brings us to the question, how are product decisions made throughout all these different businesses and organizations that led to the outcomes, the negative outcomes we've seen, and how users or customers are impacted? Over the past few years, we've seen a lot of documentaries and TV shows on Netflix, on Apple TV Plus, and a few other platforms, from the story on Abercrombie of how racist designs were incorporated in the early day t-shirts that got really popular and really controversial, to the dropout, where we talked about the Verena story, social dilemma on how products are designed by social network and how it drives habits that may be less than desirable. We crashed on the story of WeWork and this Black Mirror episode on the social score, which interestingly or scarily enough, it seems like there are hints of similar kind of ideas being tested and implemented in different places. So that brings us to the what, in terms of what are the different kind of choices that we can make in product design, product management, and product development to ensure that we are truly running our product management practice in a way that ensures we make ethical decisions every step of the way. The different types of ethical challenges or ethical issues we see in product includes discrimination, like the soap dispenser we saw, poor accessibility, like the hand sensor for the door to open, because it doesn't consider the direction of, it doesn't open bi-directionally. So it's theoretically accessible, but in a poor way. Bias in AI, we've seen in machine learning, some machine learning models have been proven to bias towards different criteria of, for example, loan applications, where we've seen some people from certain type of backgrounds or people of different ethnicities have seen favorable or unfavorable treatments in the outcomes or outputs of the models. Straight fraud, like for Reynolds, non-compliance, like not meeting requirements like GDPR in Europe. Harm to our environment, such as the famous Volkswagen case that we've heard about, where the engineers may have gamed the system to display a lower than actual amount of emissions in the vehicles, and harm to human rights. Applications, products that we've seen, for example, that collects information about the user that harms or endangers the freedom. A lot of controversies around apps where it was tracking users and being purported to be used in a malicious way, deceptive practices such as products where it says it does one thing, but actually people are misusing the data and information for things that people just simply didn't sign up for. Eavesdropping. A lot of people think about how the different IoT devices listen to us when designed properly. That wouldn't be as much as an issue then when, for example, there are some stories in the news where we've seen a bug affecting millions of devices where hackers can easily eavesdrop into what people are saying in their home, in their offices, in their daily environments. And last but not least, non-action, such as how social media platforms had a lack of moderation for content that shows up that may have led to negative consequences in the society. So, what has happened? As product people and businesses work on driving product excellence and also help increase bottom line, it is important now for us to hit the pause button and think through this a bit more. For example, Hook was or is a very popular book by Neil Eyal on building products that help form habits. The intention behind the book and the methodologies are great to help people build positive habits and get to have teams like ours to build products that people love and will use regularly. It's just one of the many product superpowers we have. And along with that, product sense, like the Spidey sense, for us to make the right decision based on available information, data, opportunities to speak to our customers, and really, and that at the heart of this, being our customers' champions, stewarding their safety, their wellness, and their needs. Just like Uncle Ben would say, with great power comes great responsibility. It's a classic quote from the Spider-Man movies and the comic books, because it's true. It is true in everything we do, especially in our line of work as product people. And why is this important? It is because the impact of technology in our lives are profound and massive. Product people's decisions, like our decisions, would impact our users one way or the other, in a good way or in a bad way. Ignorance leads to damage and hurt for our users, and product managers, at the end of the day, again, are champions for our customers. So we need to represent the interests of our customers and ensure their safety, wellness, and needs are well prioritized. The impact is profound. The impact of technology products we work on are creating huge impacts across the lives of all different types of users. Product people's decisions really impact users one way or the other, whether it's a good way or in a bad way. And ignorance leads to damage and hurt. Product managers, at the end of the day, are champions for customers, and that should be reflected in the way of how we do ethical product management. So how do teams approach this? There are teams that game the system. For example, in the previous Volkswagen example, that they managed to modify the system to give emission numbers that seemingly meet targets. There are teams that literally do nothing, which is also bad. There are teams that do the minimum or they start doing something when they're in trouble, especially, for example, when they are not in compliance with some of the core requirements for them to go to market in certain places. There are performative actions that, coming back to the sensor example with the accessibility sensor by the door of the parking lot of that office I used to work at, it seems accessible, but it's really not. And this is also seen in a lot of technology products where you see bits and parts of it being accessible, but you might notice that, hey, some of these pages and screens don't work on the screen reader, and these products don't meet WCAG or other standards that you're expecting an accessible product would. I believe the right thing to do is for us to do this right and also tie it with positive outcomes, because product managers and product people need to lead by example and help in alignment in prioritizing the importance of this work. When I say positive outcomes, I mean tying it with things like, because of compliance or complying products, we're able to save costs from penalties or lost revenue. And we're also able to serve better experiences due to true accessibility, just like that example of the sensor at the door, which is a great experience for user experience for anyone for coming through that door if it worked properly. For us to preserve ARRs due to customer retention, for us to be able to increase or bring incremental annual recurring revenue because we have simply better products and better features and capabilities. For us to be able to drive top of funnel revenue due to positive PR that the company gets, etc. There's a lot of reasons from a business perspective, not just from the perspective of being an ethical product manager, that you would want to make these decisions. That at the end of the day is a win-win-win situation for the team, for the users, and for the business. So how should this be done? A few key points here that I'd like to share with you all. Let's make sure we invest early in the process. Think about making ethical product decisions every step of the way. Ensure there is diverse team view, because when it's just ourselves, myself, one of you, one of us thinking about it, we may have missed certain angles of why a product works or do not work for people from different backgrounds. We should, as leaders, gain alignment and buy-ins across different stakeholder groups so that we all understand across the organization this work is important. We need to lead by example, and we need to consider every aspect, whether it's the design of the products, the content and the language we use in the products, the requirements that are baked into development. And again, coming back to the most important of all, as product people, we always think about the outcomes. Let's focus on those proper outcomes for the people we built these products for. And how does it look like in practice? In the discovery phase, this may mean us making sure we have good recruitment practice for research, recruiting different people from different backgrounds to ensure diversity and inclusion is well represented. This may mean truly being empathetic, showing that empathy and understanding what is good for our users. Ethical choices around directions we make about the product we are building or discovering opportunities for. And if some ideas that came out from ideation doesn't quite work from an ethical perspective, quickly come up with alternatives with methods like Crazy 8 and other ideation techniques to be able to think through alternatives before we present any ideas and gain buy-ins on those ideas. During design, ensuring requirements are properly added, especially around important pieces like accessibility, and making sure the designs are usability tested before we bring them into development. Usability tested by people from different backgrounds. And as an example, if the design of the soap dispenser in the prototypes, if we were able to. So how does it look in practice? In the discovery process, a few things to keep in mind is to ensure diversity practices in recruitment for research. When we recruit users for a research process, making sure diversity and inclusion are well represented. This is Also about being empathetic and truly understanding what is good for our users. It is about making ethical choices as we explore different directions for our product. And when solutions or product directions we're exploring that are not meeting the ethical standards of our product team, be able to come up with alternatives, ethical alternatives through different techniques like Crazy 8 or other ideation methodologies. When it comes to design, it is about making sure we have the proper requirements to ensure we are building an ethical product. That includes key items like accessibility and making sure we're usability testing these designs with the audience that we are building these products for, and having that empathy for our users before the product goes into development, where we ensure the requirements are well documented and well prioritized, and the products are tested, well tested, extensively tested before any releases. We fix and remediate any issues we find, and this is really only the start of the journey of the process of ethical product management for us to carry that mentality throughout the life cycle of the entire product, staying committed after the release as well. In conclusion, a few reminders here for us as product people are: number one, we should and always will pursue excellence, but we need to be stewarding product ethics. We want to leverage our product superpower to build products that have people's and users' wellness, well-being, and safety being top priority, and remembering the why as a PM. At the end of the day, as PMs, we want to do good. We want to build products that we're proud of and products that people love, and truly making a difference in a good way in people's lives. So let's always remember the why as we champion good product management practice, ethical product management practices. Thank you for joining us today. And a few credits before we close is flat icon for about the icons that we've used in this presentation, photos from Unsplash, Netflix and Apple TV Plus for show images, Sonic Marvel for the Age of Uncle Ben, and Near AO for the book Hook, which again, great book. If you haven't read it, you should read it. But think about how we nuance that with our practices of building product ethics, building product ethically. I'd love to stay connected with you. Please find me on LinkedIn with my handle at Yeung Timothy, and look forward to connecting with you and any questions that you may have about this very important topic. Thank you. Have a nice day and enjoy the rest of the Product Graph Summit.